giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Toolbox Talks, and today I'm coming to you from downtown Toronto in Canada, and my guest on today's show is the lovely Ellen Rohr from ellenrohr.com, and I have invited her on the show because she has been referred to me by Kenny Chapman all the way back in episode, 28. So Ellen, thank you for joining us.
Hey, I love Kenny Chapman. A friend of Kenny's is a friend of mine.
We all love Kenny.
He's a smart dude. Isn't he great?
Yeah, he's the best.
Yay. Well, what do you want to talk about?
So where are you based?
I am in the center of the U.S. If you shot an arrow into the bullseye of the United States, you would find me in Rogersville, Missouri.
Okay. Rogersville, Missouri. Okay, so does that make you I'm just trying to think, which baseball team are you a Kansas City supporter or are you?
I'm not huge into baseball. My niece is very much a Royals fan. Yeah. But I was born in Utah, so I am a diehard Runnin' Utes fan. That's my team.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, my husband and I, once upon a time, as we made more money, we decided to become farmers. We moved out to the country. I live on 80 acres. I travel all the time and I come back to this paradise. So a business of your own can buy lifestyle and freedom, and I am all about it. So I'm glad we get a chance to talk about how you might do that yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so Kenny obviously referred you to myself and the show because he knows that you do a lot of work with trade-based organisations, contractors, tradies, etc. And I suppose I just wanted to find out a little bit more about that, find out a little bit more about your journey and then what your connection to the trade is. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to probe with a few questions here and just to let the audience know a bit about who you are, what you are, and what you do. And then we're also, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to collaborate a little bit on a series looking forward. So that will be fantastic. But we may as well get the ball rolling with this now. So look, tell me a little bit about, I suppose, firstly, your journey to where you are today. How did you end up with ellenrohr.com?
Well, as a kid, I got the first entrepreneurial seizure, I think, when I was 6 years old, and I started to sell penny candy in front of my yard, on a little card table, and sold it for 2 pennies. And I got this idea of if you charge more than it costs for stuff, you can make your own money. And that's an important lesson that I then forgot when I went to school, and I graduated at the top of my class with a degree in business administration. I had all sorts of business experience. And then my husband, I married a guy named Hot Rod, Matt.
Hot Rod.
I said, "What's your name, baby?" And he said, "Hot Rod." And I said, "Okay,
right on.
He's the one." And he's a plumber. And I thought, well, that's cool. Plumbers make a lot of money, right? I thought that was a selling feature. So I married Hot Rod, and Hot Rod had a little plumbing company going, and I had a career going. And I didn't pay too much attention to his business until his best friend and partner died. At age 33,
Jesus.
He worked himself into a health crisis. People who are sacrificing their health and their relationship, their life for their business. That's what Yax did, his friend, and he died.
Jesus.
And I know, and I bring that up because I like to make things easier than that. You don't have to kill yourself doing it. I don't think you have to work so hard. That's certainly my philosophy. And so, what if we focused on the few things that matter and let a lot of the other stuff go? I learned that as a result of this experience, but not right away, because I turned to my husband and I said, "I tell you what, I'm going to quit my real job and I'm going to come work for you. You turn wrenches, I'll count the money, we'll get rich." It seemed like a good plan, but it was awful. So we didn't make any money. We argued all the time about it, and luckily, I found a mentor, and Kenny Chapman has a very similar story. We found the same pain in the butt mentor, a fellow named Frank Blau, who called us out. Sometimes your mentors are loving and encouraging, and sometimes they hit you with a brick. And Frank hit both me and Kenny with a brick in a similar fashion, where he just said, "You don't know what you're doing, and you need to pay attention. You might as well shut this thing down because you're never going to be successful." And he got my attention.
Yep.
So I was humbled because he was right. Ouch.
And pissed off.
crying. I called, the first time I talked to him, I hung up on him. Second time I talked to him, I was crying. I'm sorry, take me back. Show me my asset from my elbow. And he did. And he taught me how to read and use financial reports. So what I do, Matt, is basically, based on my experience with the plumber's wife, I share what I learned. And step one was to figure out the money. And step two was put a little plan in place, figure out what you want, and then move boldly in that direction. And there are lots of ways to do that. There's not just my way. I refer to my business as business uncomplicated because I want to make it simple. I also like an unconventional approach. I believe that if you've been prompted to start a business of your own, you may have what you need to be successful at it. You might need a little help. You might need to reach out, but you don't have to make it very fancy. It could be a lot simpler. Charge more than it costs, add enough value that people say yes, keep score, put a plan together. This stuff is not that hard. So anyway, we turned our business around. We sold it to our employees in 1995, which was a huge coup. It was a wonderful experience. I share that too because I'm obsessed with employee opportunity. Mm-hmm. And after that, I've written 4 business basic books. They're thin. They have pictures in them.
Ideal for plumbers like myself.
Yeah, well, I'm old. I was not diagnosed like this, but I think I'm probably attention deficit. I don't know who isn't anymore. And we don't have a long attention span. And I also don't think it has to be a thick book. Make your point and move on. So I also am looking at ways that for people who don't like to read or English as a second language, could we put videos online and podcasts? And just like you're doing, this is an awesome opportunity for me to share from my experience and strength. And I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, well, we're glad to have you.
Yeah. So after we sold the company and I started to help other plumbers' wives, I'd certainly relate to someone who's the wife of a plumber, a lot of family businesses in the trades.
So was that the company? Was it the plumber's wife? Is that what it was called?
No, that's just sometimes how I refer to myself.
Okay, gotcha.
In fact, I did a seminar yesterday.
Yep.
And there was like 50 people in the audience. And I saw this woman and I just, how if you give a presentation, you end up just kind of locking eyes on somebody and having fun with them?
Yeah.
I was all over this woman, and lo and behold, she was the one woman in the audience who was married to a plumber. And I just like a magnet, I just found her. We we're sisters because that relationship is a common one in all kinds of businesses. But so often the person who has the trade skill is out in the field, and then somebody has to sweep up afterwards, and it's the partner or the wife, or it's sometimes the dad or the mom, something like that. But once we didn't work together, I also am very much a supporter of, you don't have to work together. We decided not to. Once we got the money figured out, we turned to the bigger questions. Okay, now that we're not dying here, literally.
Can we save our marriage?
Yeah, well, I started asking questions like, so what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And what do you want to be? And why are we doing this? Those big business planning questions. And Hot Rod said to me, I really like working all by myself. And that's a totally viable model. And it was his business. So at the time, it was kind of heartbreaking and I was a little pissed off. I went through the stages of grief. And then I thought, this is cool. He can do what he wants and I can do what I want. What is it that I want? And I realized that I wanted to see if the simple systems that I had learned and developed and used to such great effect in our company, could I apply them to a bigger company? Because that turned me on. My dream was different. That's why if you don't share the same vision, don't torture each other. So I started to think about, could I do something bigger? Could I explore that? And lo and behold, when you're clear on your intention, action becomes a lot less required. Intention trumps action. Okay, so when you know what you want, the universe conspires to help you out, and you can just weed out stuff that isn't moving you in the direction of what you really want. And what happened is I was approached by a group of venture capitalists who said, we want to grow a plumbing company. And I became the president of Benjamin Franklin, the Punctual Plumber. You may have heard of them. Do you know these guys?
I don't actually.
Yeah.
Maybe I should.
It's a pretty cool company. The owners of the company, I was not an owner, but I did work for these guys, and it was like getting an MBA in business. And on my watch as the president, we grew from 0 to 47 locations in under 2 years.
Wow.
I know, it was wild. And the lesson I learned there was that yes, simple, elegant systems work. In fact, my mentor taught me that the the simpler you make it, the bigger you can take your company. So if you want to grow, those core foundational pieces are really all that you need. You want to fight fancy, uncomplicate your business. That's what I learned. And then when I left that organization in 2004, I started to consult and work with other clients again. And I just started another franchise 2 years ago. And we're flirting with our fourth franchisee. It's a drain and sewer company this time. I love me drains. I never thought I would say that, but I cannot tell you how much I love our guys and our company. And I'm super proud of what we're creating, and it's exciting. So whatever you want to do, I'm going to encourage you to do it. Don't listen to me or anybody else. You follow your own heart. And every now and then, if I say something that resonates with you, then yay. But there is no one out there smarter than you when it comes to your business. Sometimes you just might need a little bit of help. And that's why Matt and I are here today, right?
There you go.
Yeah. No, tell me a little bit more about you. Like, how did you get so engaged in wanting to do this?
Well, I mean, I'm originally a plumber.
Okay.
And I sort of,
love plumbers.
when going into my, starting my own business, I realized that it was pretty hard out there to find, you know your tool, you know how to apply the trade, but you don't really know anything about learning how to run a business. So we're just trying to fill the gap there, I suppose, with that, that disconnect. And that's why with a site, that's why we have the site shed. And that's why we speak to people like yourselves to help people hopefully resonate with certain things that you say.
Hey.
And,
now, are you still plumbing, or is that?
No, I haven't done that in a long time.
Okay.
But
yeah, and this, my husband now, he teaches people solar and hydronic. There may be multiple careers for you, but all of them can be enhanced by understanding the money and understanding a little bit of business planning.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the messages that we really try to get out to the market and drive home is, where you start is not where you end up. And like doing a trade can open so many doors and so many different windows of opportunity. It's just a matter of having a bit of vision and getting it. I mean, you've got to start somewhere. You've got to do your apprenticeship. You've got to get your hands dirty. You've got to go dig holes for a while, but you don't have to end up that way.
And if you want to, that's fine. Like with my husband, he really loves getting his hands dirty.
Yep,
he really loves that piece of the trade. So is there anything wrong in being a one-man shop? Oh, no. In fact, his business model, when he started another business after, we decided not to work together, for a while, he had this for about 10 years. And his mantra was to work for people he liked on projects that were interesting and get in line.
Yep.
Get in line. If you don't like my prices, it's like a West Coast Choppers, those big motorcycles. Do they say, well, listen, I'm going to take 10% off for you? No, they say, get in line.
Yeah.
And that is a very viable model. So there's a lot of ways to do this. There isn't just one way. And that's why it's fun to explore this.
I suppose this is sort of segueing a little bit from where I wanted to go, but I want to go there anyway, because you're saying, we preach a lot of, I suppose, similar things in the space of, getting systems and, operating procedures in place and making sure that your business has systems that can potentially be acquired down the track if you want to, you've got to make it possible for somebody to purchase it. That's basically what they're going to be buying. If your husband's running a one-man band, is he doing everything from the invoicing, the follow-up phone calls, answering the phone? Is he doing all that stuff himself?
Well, he sold that business too, which I wouldn't have thought you could do.
Right.
Like every time I want to draw a line in the sand, well, that'll never work. I see someone who's doing it. So what he did is he had a bookkeeper, but he let the phone go to voice message and maybe he would call you back.
Yeah.
There is something about being exclusive that's very, very attractive. And if you want to become the guy to be known for solar, or maybe you're the one who does hybrid solutions, something about geothermal and hydronics and solar and traditional forced air systems. If you like the idea of having a small business and you get very exclusive in terms of your skill set and then your clientele, as a small company, you can't serve 10,000 customers. So just pick the 500 that you can serve really, really well. Now, you may want to, like me, my fever is for scaling. And the number one reason I like to scale, Matt, is because I am obsessed with employee opportunity. People say I can't find good people. Well, what makes your game so compelling? Why would anybody come work for you? You don't seem to like people.
Yep.
You're always complaining about your guys. I wouldn't work for you. So what if instead of saying, I can't find veterans with 10 years experience in their own tools and they're going to do it exactly like I do it. That's what people say they're looking for. Instead, what we are preaching in our franchise. We fail every day, but this is our intention. No experience necessary. We'll teach you how to get good. You show up willing and capable, and we will provide everything you need to be successful. You may or may not be a good fit. It doesn't make you worth less as a human being, but our responsibility is to create such a great game that wonderful people come to work for us and want to do it. And that has made all the difference.
So what you really, I mean, you're talking about culture there, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I suppose that's something that a lot of business owners really struggle with. I mean, I don't know if it's a personality type thing, but when we, in the last series we just did with Peter Cox on leadership, he spoke a lot about, creating the right culture within your organization. I mean, is there a lot of people that don't fit the mold?
I think that I'll tell you a real example of this. Like, I was on Facebook the other day, and a guy I like who has an organization that serves chimney sweep professionals. Love that industry.
Yeah.
Nice, dirty job there. And he put a great question on his Facebook board that was something like this. It seems like a lot of people want good jobs, and it seems like a lot of employers have good jobs that they can't fill. What's the disconnect? And I thought, oh, that's a great question. And I was going to put my 2 cents worth in. But before I even could, there was like a stream of rants from employers saying how awful kids today are. And people don't want to work. And there's Bible quotes decrying the youth of the today and all this stuff. And I thought, well, no one wants to work for you if that's what you think of them.
Yeah.
And that to me is the real issue in the cultural challenge. And if this is resonating with you, like if I'm hurting your feelings right now, or it's kind of pinging you, one of the guys I worked with used to hate his employees. That's why he hired me. He'll tell you this. He hired me to help him fix the company good enough that he could sell it. Like you were saying, let's get the systems in. He worked with me and another consultant, Al Levy, who would be adorable on your show, by the way, Matt.
Yep.
Love Al. And so we were working with him to that effect because that's what he gets to do. So he gets to decide what he wants. It's not my job. That was my directive. But what was interesting is that as he started to put systems in, one of our requirements when we work with business owners is that you ride along with your guys because we have projects, we have manuals that need to be written. You can't do it all. They can help. He started to ride along. He started to delegate projects, and he fell in love with them.
Mm.
There's a guy on his team who supports 17 family members.
Jeez.
He's the working guy for all these people who've come from another country, and he's supporting them. There's another guy on his team. He's been working for him for 8 years. He had no idea that he's a big brother in the Big Brother organization. And he has 3 or 4 kids that he's mentored since he was 20 years old. So you find out about your guys. You spend a little windshield time with them. You ask them about the questions on their dashboard, and you start to get engaged and enrolled in their goals and their dreams. And to me, that's the most delicious part. Everybody has different motivations, but I am all about creating opportunities, playing a bigger game, finding ways that together we're better really, really turns me on.
Yeah, that's interesting because in the last couple of episodes, Peter Cox was saying, if you really want to grow your business and you want to get people to buy into doing that, you've really got to tie it back to what they want, and you've got to make it real for them, because what your goals are have absolutely no implication on them. They couldn't care less. And I've been in that scenario myself where
me too.
Where I'm working for somebody and it's all about the next boat, or it's all about the next house, and I couldn't care less. At no time was it ever tied back into what I wanted. So I effectively left.
No one ever asked me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so what would happen is I'm kind of a troublemaker, a fence tester. So unless there's a bigger game to play, my game, I had a lot of jobs before I settled into a career, got married, had a family, all that. But as a young person, I was discounted. People would talk to me about my attitude, and I'm thinking, my attitude's fine. You seem to have a chip on your shoulder. I didn't get what they were talking about. But every now and then, someone would call me out and see my intelligence and challenge me to a bigger game. And in every instance, I played.
Yep.
When I was called out, I played. And I have never forgotten what it feels like to be a discounted employee.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to do that. I like to at least pay attention. I don't think kids today are any different than kids ever have been.
No, probably not. Tell me, Ellen, what was it like when you went to work? When you went to work with Hot Rod?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any business experience prior to that, or were you just thrown in the deep end? Okay, do the marketing.
Well, I thought this is what was made me. This is why Frank Blau was doubly disgusted with me. Is that I have a degree in business administration, and I graduated from a private university at the top of my class.
Wow.
Like no one had a higher GPA than I did, so I thought I knew something. And I am a big believer in higher education, but it is not my education in school that caused me to be successful. It was people like Frank and shows like this and trade magazines and blogs and the stuff that I produce, I hope is part of this legacy of people sharing. And but what happened is when I studied financials in school, we did things, like ratios and LIFO, FIFO for everything. But what the assumption was is that those financial reports were right, that they were correct and current. Never did anyone tell me that what you're really looking at in your own business is some pile of garbage or that you're 3 years behind.
So
this is huge. Like that was big. That was really humbling for me. Even in business, when I worked at other companies, I assumed those financials were right. That's a giant assumption.
one of the big problems that we see, or one of the common problems that we see with a lot of trade organisations is that they don't really have a true understanding of what their costs are. So they're effectively not charging the right amount of money due to the fact they're not including or they're not accounting for all of their costs that they're incurring. Things like the telephone bills, the car insurance, all that kind of stuff. It all, at the end of the day, adds to the bottom line. And I think it's important that people do get a good understanding of what they actually need to be charging in order to be making money, not just surviving.
And I fought it. I thought, can't we hire an accountant to do this? Why do I need to do it? It's your money. The owner needs to do it. And the owner needs to know it well enough that they can delegate it. I don't do bookkeeping anymore. I have a bookkeeper. I didn't do it for very long. It probably took me a year to get my arms around what a balance sheet was, what a profit and loss was. And I will tell you, I was kicking and screaming most of that year.
Yeah.
And then I just had this realization, like, it's not that hard. There's just some weird words you got to learn. And you need to sit with your accountant elbow by elbow. But until I did that, what would happen, Matt, is that I would say to Hot Rod, we don't have enough money. And he would hear, I'm not good enough. I'm not working hard.
Right.
And so that's where so much stress and so much hurt happened. You will say and do things to someone you love that you would never say or do to someone who you're not related to in some way. So that's why I think we did a lot of damage to our relationship where we just thought, we're better not working together.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
And so once I got that figured out, and then once we, you get the money figured out, then you start on these bigger questions, business planning questions. What do you want to do? And unless you're aligned, it's better that you don't work together. And I do believe that there's room for only one person at the top of an organizational chart.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is going to be a buck stops here moment or a moment where we have to make a call.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily something everybody believes. That is my philosophy. The best companies I know are willing to have that discussion. Who's going to be the cheese?
Yeah.
Right. And then you don't have to lord that over everyone. But at some point, we all have to turn to that person and say, what's it going to be, A or B?
Yeah. One of the very interesting things that we raised in the previous episodes is that person is not always the owner. Like
it doesn't have to be the owner.
No.
Or it doesn't have to be the majority owner.
I was telling Peter, a client of mine who lives down in Melbourne, in Victoria, in Australia, he wanted to grow his business. His business wasn't growing. He couldn't figure out why. And he went and saw a business consultant, and the consultant said, look, you're really good at, training your guys. You're really good at generating work. He says, but you're not CEO material. And he encouraged him to put a CEO on. And he did. He put a CEO in his business, and the business skyrocketed. And
I've heard that story, not a lot. It's not my favorite way to grow a company, but I've heard it enough. This is when I say, every time I kind of say, oh, I got this figured out, I see someone prove me wrong. I have seen it happen in a couple of cases. There's a Mary Jean Anderson. She and her husband have a plumbing company. She became the CEO and felt like the company had outgrown her. It's a huge company now in San Diego. And they hired a CEO to be senior to all of them in the day-to-day decision-making.
Yeah. Well, what it did for Tim, it allowed him to focus more on what he was really good at. And by doing that, everything sort of started falling into place because he was spending so much time trying to be the CEO, and he wasn't that great at it, and he knew it.
Well, you know what I don't like about it, though? Can I just share what, I usually see when someone says that, I need a service manager, I need a CEO. What I see is they're looking for a Superman or Superwoman.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking for something that
the magic
probably
pill
doesn't exist. Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead, what if, just before you did that, what if you owned the position first, long enough to see that you might be good at it? Sometimes it's just that you haven't developed the skills you need. So I'm not saying, as I said, I'm that not one way is the same path for everyone, but you might also consider, wait a minute, it is my company. I do want to develop. There was a cute movie called The Intern where Robert De Niro was the intern to Anne Hathaway. And that's how the movie ended is, you know what, sister, it's your business and no one's going to care like you do. What if you just manned up and got the skills you need and the chops you need to grow this thing? And that was kind of her path. Not for everyone, but I encourage people to don't underestimate what your capacity is. There is nobody out there who isn't winging it to some degree. The most successful, the guys I worked with, Benjamin Franklin, they went from a $4,000 investment to selling the company 10 years later for $189 million.
Holy.
And they've done it several times. These are really smart guys in the space. And they're no better than you are. Like, that's why I started the franchise with my partners in Zoom Drain is like, and they can do it. You read biographies like Ray Kroc and McDonald's. He was not the brightest bulb.
No.
There's a quote by Robert Jarvik, the developer of the artificial heart. And it goes like this. Leaders are visionaries with no concept of the odds against them. There's something about being not the brightest bulb. It gives you the chutzpah, the courage, the balls it takes to just give it a swing.
Yeah.
And why not? I think the adventure is worth it. And if you decide you want someone else to do it, no wrong in any way that this manifests. But if you're wondering if you feel like an imposter a little bit, I think that's par for the course. All of us at some point or another are just thinking, I hope I don't get found out for what I don't know.
Yeah, a colleague of mine always said the only difference between big business and small business is the directors of the big business have less of an idea about what's going on.
You meet some of these guys and you think, okay, I think I could do this.
Yeah, exactly.
You read the books, it gives you a little bit of courage. And even if you, like you said before, where you start isn't where you end up. I think goals are important and business planning is important, not for the achievement of the goal. Another mentor I love. Have you heard of Jim Rohn?
Yeah, I have actually.
I love him. He's dead now, but I met him once and he gave off this glowing aura. One of my favorite people ever. But he said, you set a goal to become a millionaire or a decamillionaire, not for the money, which is great, but for what it will make of you in the attempt. And that's all this is like this awesome self-development course. A business is a vehicle to help you achieve your life goals. And so you get in the car and you could fix the car or get a second car. You could abandon the car. The business is not you. It's just something to drive on the path to what you want to do and be.
Yep. No, that's pretty.
We're talking philosophy. We're not talking much about Mother's Day.
No, we're not.
I'm feeling a little motherly towards you because I could be your mother. I know your Skype name now and has your birth year in it, for crying out loud.
Well, look, I mean, it's coming up to Mother's Day this weekend, and I suppose we've only had a few ladies on the show, and that's not by any way a decision. Though we've been screaming to get ladies on, but they're a little bit harder to get on than others. So
it's still a sexist space. I wish we had more.
Yeah.
At Zoom right now we have let me count 0 women technicians.
Right.
So you know what I think. And I haven't done this, but I'm going to throw it out there. It's still on my list, and I haven't really turned my intention on it to make this happen. But I think nurses would make awesome technicians because they work with fluids and pumps and pipes and systems. They understand how things work. They have customer service requirements. And a lot of nurses are dissatisfied with the healthcare system anymore, certainly in the U.S. I don't know what it's like in Australia. But in the U.S., it's harder to be a nurse. There's fewer nurses doing more things, a lot of risk.
Look, I think if you can be a nurse, you can do anything.
Don't you? I agree. I think we might turn our focus to nurses, and maybe we'll have more people on the show.
So tell me, let's talk a little bit about, I suppose, your, being the super mum you are. How do you go about juggling work and family?
Well, when this too shall pass. If you're juggling little kids, do you have kids?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
getting married in October, so I'm
when
guessing
you first have a baby, if you choose to, or are surprised with one, it turns everything topsy-turvy. And being a parent of little kids is just incredibly, ridiculously insane. And it passes, as they get older, it gets easier. And then before you know it, they go to college. And I know everyone says it goes so fast, but I'm crying talking about it. It goes by in the blink of an eye. And it is important to spend time with your kids. And if you work, take your kids with you to work and put them to work. I think a family business, teaching kids that, like I learned in the selling penny candy, you sell stuff for more than it costs and you can make your own money, is an incredibly liberating lesson. Don't apologize for being a family business owner.
So is that what you used to do? I mean, but how do you juggle? I mean, that there's obviously an age where you can't take your kids to work. Like when you get toddlers running around screaming, throwing things at you, I mean, there's got to be a line there, right? How do you juggle that?
Well, and when Max was really little, Hot Rod used to put him in a snuggly and take him on service calls. If I was working, because, for a while I worked in the restaurant and the business, and, you just do what you got to do. But yeah, when they're toddlers, there's going to be a phase. But, before you know it, they're going to be 4 or 5 and they're going to be able to help on, job site cleanup here, put everything in the bucket. There's stuff that kids can do and observe and be part of. And I didn't realize, now Max, my son, is 30. And I didn't realize how much he picked up, not just about the trade. He isn't as passionate about getting his hands dirty as his dad is. Mm-hmm. But he went and he worked for Hot Rod. That was just, listen, you're part of the family, you're going to go. And that's how it went. And they loved hanging out together. I don't think they ever had a crossword with each other, which was a total blessing. But even though Max didn't, live and breathe with, to get his hands on those tools like my husband does, he was paying attention. And then he worked for a manufacturer, and then he worked for a distributor and a manufacturer's rep. And now he's in charge of training for a big German company with a giant presence in North America. And he picked it all up. He understands so much about business. He has such a deep appreciation of the trade. So you don't know, he's not a technician, but He's a troubleshooter. He understands things. I mean, it's really cool what they end up doing. And I'm delighted he ended up in the trades. Yep. It's a different role, but he's got a rockin' fantastic career.
Were there any barriers that you ran into, I suppose, as a lady working in trade organisations? Were there, things that you thought, I mean, you mentioned it's a sexist industry.
Well, yeah. I will tell you that me personally, I have been so delightfully supported and championed because I'm a woman in this industry. That has been my experience. I have not, maybe because I'm just too confident to even notice. Maybe behind my back, people were making fun of me, but I never experienced it. But I'll tell you what happened that made all the difference. When I became the president of Benjamin Franklin, I had no idea what I was doing. I had an intention that I wanted to see if I could play on a bigger stage. And then this opportunity comes and I said yes. And I ran to the store. I got franchising for dummies. I was in over my head from minute one. I was underqualified and overwhelmed for this job. So what happened is, I sign on my first couple of franchisees and I go to their shop and I really don't know what I'm going to do to help them be successful or start this thing. So I almost escaped to the truck. I said, listen, I'm going to ride along with one of your guys. I figured no bad thing would happen if I made a friend, with the plumber. I love plumbers. I used to, ride along with Hot Rod. I kind of escaped to the truck. But what I did is I said, if you were me, what should I know? What's something that your boss is having you do that gets in the way? What's something that you wish he would start doing? I started to ask really candid questions. I'm very blunt. I'm all about transparency. Let's just have these conversations without, getting our underwear in a bunch. And they told me how to fix it. The front line can fix your business if you pay attention. So this was huge for me. And the reason why I was able to grow a company like that wasn't because I could go do the work. In fact, it was because I couldn't go do the work. But what I did was honor and respect the trades. I think, you look at the trades, I call electricians lightning wranglers. And look, isn't that amazing? They power the internet, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
They handle lightning. the wastewater guys. These guys turn wine back into water. They deal with Viagra and antidepressants and radiation therapy that ends up in your water supply. And they're willing to say, well, let me take a look at it. Yeah. I mean, that just blows my mind. And then plumbers keeping good water from bad water. Look at what's happening in Flint.
Yeah.
And that's the tip of the iceberg. So I have this giant love and appreciation for tradespeople, and I communicate that. And that is what has helped me overcome the fact that if I picked up a channel ox, I need to use two hands and I'll probably hurt myself. I don't pretend to be that guy. I just help him be successful. And that has helped me overcome any barriers that I might have run into. And so I encourage women to embrace this awesome trade.
Yeah, and I do. I mean, I'll be honest, I know only a handful of women that are in trades, but they're so good at what they do, and they are a whole lot better at asking those questions and communicating it. So I suppose all those guy listeners out there, I think there's a pretty strong message there.
Yeah. So yes, and if you do have a woman on the teams, and don't torture her away. Welcome some diversity of shapes and sizes and people. Like, I love a diverse team. We bring different flavor. Better together is one of my favorite expressions, that's how we become really strong, is to not be like everybody else.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Well, look, I suppose we're getting to the end now, running out of time here. So fun. I might ask you a few more questions, and then we'll get to wrapping this up, and we'll come back at a later date, and maybe with a bit more focused insight on something more specific. So
I'm happy to do so. I'm psyched about what you're doing, and it's an honor to participate.
Oh, thanks, Ellen. It's good to have you on board.
Yeah.
So tell me, what does the future hold?
The franchise on one side.
Yep.
And then I like to do speaking, just like today. This is absolutely part of my intention, is to spread the good news of, starting, fixing, and growing a business. So I will steer folks to my website, ellenrohr.com.
Mm-hmm.
ellenrohr.com. ELLENROHR. And I'm going to just check. I don't know if
I'll have the links in the show notes. That's fine.
You'll have a link there. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I may have put something together. Oh, I think it's if we put something together that's ELLEN. I'm going to check it as we talk. ELLENROHR.com/shed. I think that's what we were talking about as far as putting together a little gift for you. Let me see if it's up. Yeah, just what will happen is that, it's up. Okay, so ellenrohr.com/shed. You go there and you put your name and email address in, and you can download this one-page financial report and some instructions for how to use it. It's just a little gift, a freebie from me. And what that does is it puts you on my email list. I'll share some other products with you. You can always say no. You can get off my list if you don't like my voice or what we're offering. However, if you do think we could have if you'd be comfortable in my community, then that's a good way to stay in touch, because I'll communicate once a week or so with a blog or a podcast, or I'll let you know, Matt, when these things air, we can send out word to our group. So,
yeah, cool.
I want to do more and more low cost, easy access tools in all sorts of medium, so that people can find the help that they need, and the support and the love and the how to make business uncomplicated.
Yeah. And community.
And community. And I also want to be on a reality TV show with me as the business makeover coach. Don't you think I'd be adorable?
I think so. I would totally watch that. I'd get buy a TV for that. I don't even have one.
Yeah, I want to be on Dancing with the Stars. I love that. I know they have that in Australia too.
Can you shake it?
No, but they teach you how.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's how you learn to dance. It'd be awesome.
Dancing for Dummies, kind of.
Yeah, awesome. I think it'll be great.
So is the best way for people to reach you through the website or social media, or how would you like that to happen?
Yeah, ellenrohr.com or social media. Ellen Rohr is my Facebook name,
Twitter
my
as well,
Twitter handle, my Instagram.
Yeah, cool.
Whatever works for you. I'm available on that medium, and we'll stay in touch that way. And you can always, if you want, you can call.
Yep.
So the website has all the contact information too.
Yeah, no worries. I'll post links to all that stuff in the show notes anyway. So if anyone does want to get hold of you, they surely will be able to. What
are you going to get your mother for Mother's Day?
Oh, you know what? I'm overseas. Well, actually, you know what? I took her away before we went out. So we went for the Mother's Day lunch with my brother and his wife and my little nephew, who's almost 2.
Oh, fun.
That was fun.
Well, you know what my son will do, because we're not going to be together this Mother's Day. But when he was little, he would make a homemade card, and it was always my favorite thing. So he'll still do that. Only now it's a PDF, and it's just some completely disrespectful, funny thing. And
yeah, we do that as well. Something as cheeky as we possibly can.
Oh yeah. Completely bad. I love it.
All right. Well, the last question that I ask our guests on this show is who they would like to see interviewed on the show next, and preferably somebody you know, because I'm going to ask you to connect me.
I would say you've had Kenny. I think Al Levy would be great. Al Levy he is a mensch of a guy. He comes from such a solid foundational sense of operational excellence. And we work together really nicely because I like to focus on the money, the planning, the games for the guys, the compensation, that kind of thing. And then he does operations manuals, sales and marketing. We're very complementary. And personality-wise, we are too. He wrote a book called The 7-Power Contractor. And his email address is al, A-L, at appleseedbusiness.com. And you tell him Ellen sent you, and he'll say yes.
Done.
Yes, he's a great guy and will be a very good guest. He's a good speaker.
That's great. We'll for sure get in contact with him and rope him into the show as well.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, look, that's pretty much, we're out of time on this one. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Matt. And, love.
Yeah, we'll totally get together shortly and take this a little bit further. So for our listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please go ahead and leave us some comments in the show notes or on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and of course, iTunes. And that is a wrap for this show. So if you haven't already, head across to thesiteshed.com and register for our Toolbox Talks, where you'll be regularly sent great episodes just like this straight to your inbox, so you'll never miss one. If you want to join the community, you can head across to thesiteshed.com/members, where for a small monthly fee, you'll get access to regularly updated training material, as well as access to our forum, where you can mingle and collaborate with trade-based business owners just like you from all over the world. If you're enjoying this podcast, please head across to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps us spread the word and reach the masses. Likewise, if you know anyone that might benefit from the content we create, then please go ahead and share this with them.
You've been listening to Toolbox Talks by The Site Shed. For more great content just like this, head across to thesiteshed.com and join the amazing community of savvy trade-based business owners.